right, good morning. My name is Kelli Pierscinski. I'm a teacher consultant for the ISD. Just a little bit of background about myself. I taught at Swiss Creek Community Schools for 17 years. I was in a cognitively impaired classroom. I did that for many years, and then my director said, I'm moving you to a TC position. I'm like, no, I'm not done. I have so much stuff I still want to do with this program. So I did that for about 5 years, and a job opened up at the ISD, and I took it. Didn't want to, but my boss was like, Kelly, you gotta go, you gotta do this, you gotta fly. And I'm like, all right. So I'm at the ISD, and I wear many different hats. I'm a trainer for PBIS, which is promoting positive school climate, which you guys are a part of. You guys come to the trainings. Clio's been in PBIS for 4 years, so you guys are cohort 1. And trainer and coach for that. I do a lot of work with Steve Palega, who is our compliance and monitor director for the county for technical assistance. That's with IEP development. And then I do things with active engagement. Anita Archer, who she works on explicit instruction and bringing it into the classroom. So multiple different things. I don't think I knew I was going to be doing all those things when I first hired in, but anyways, I absolutely love it. So today we're going to talk about PBIS and active supervision. I think all your position, you guys are supervising students at some point, right? And then how is it relating to PBIS, which is promoting positive behavior supports too. So one thing I want to do first thing, does everybody have a phone with them today? All right, you're probably thinking you're going to make, oh you don't? Okay, we're going to use your memory. You're probably thinking, oh, you're going to make me power it off my phone. Absolutely not. What I want you to do is open up your photos. And I want you to find one picture, it can be recent, it can be a while back, that was very special to you, something so positive. And you want to talk about it, you want to share. So I want you to find that one picture. In a minute we're going to find somebody that you typically don't see on a regular basis. So like you 4 ladies are going to have to split up for a second. But I want you to find that one picture that it means a lot to you, it's very positive, and you want to talk about it. So find that picture. I got it? Sometimes it's hard. We have a lot of positive things about it. Alright, so I want you to get up and you're going to find somebody else that's not from your school. And then you're going to share. We'll talk about that picture. Did you do it? Alright, I'll share with you. Okay. This is my son.
Huh?
Yes.
I am.
Scott has moved to Texas. This is one of our last
German short hair.
Oh.
There's one of us as the present center. Oh yeah. We went to that was the Christmas present. My boys know that I like going to sporting events with them, and so they got me that for Christmas, and they bought me tickets for this Saturday to go see for my birthday. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah. Yep, I told double seater, huh? I told seeing all these different characters doing little plays.
We're going to take about 20 more seconds.
Oh yeah.
Every time I look at those, I'm like, I'm such a great dad. So my life, we're parenting so well right now.
That's awesome.
It wasn't bad either. It was like 2 shows with a little intermission and cookies.
Okay, so we're back in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So how did that feel? Did you enjoy talking about positive things, right? And it wasn't How many of you talked about work?
Yeah.
Come
Okay.
on, that's the most positive thing, right? No, none of you talked about work. You probably talked about family or friends or pets, something else other than work, right? So it felt good. It made you feel good. You learned about other people. That's the same thing with our kids. They want to build relationships. They want to feel welcome, and they want to feel that they can come talk to you. And so many times with teachers, our support staff, it's usually, get out your homework, we gotta do this, and it's all about science or math or reading, or it's about the behavior expectations. And a lot of times we forget to make those everyday connections. You know, how was your little basketball game? How was wrestling last night? Oh, I know you went to the dance, or whatever the case is, making those connections that solely don't have to do anything with academics or the expectations. Just start building relationships. So how many of you never met each other before? Kind of like that you guys talked.
Oh, we never.
Yeah, and so you guys had a pause. I heard laughing and smiling. So you guys made a connection, okay? So the next time you guys see each other, you might be like, hey, how's it going? So you built that a connection. So again, that was just a kind of a little icebreaker, but kind of thinking about our kids and how can we apply that with kids. So our goal is to increase awareness of PBIS and review the principles of active supervision, and then self-assess, and then our next action steps that we need to take. So this is positive behavior support. Can everybody see this? Okay. So PBIS is a broad range of systematic and individualized strategies for achieving important social and learning outcomes while preventing problem behavior. So our goal is that we want to create a positive climate, and we want to have outcomes. We want social outcomes and learning outcomes for our students. And how we're going to do that is really digging deep into that PBIS, the positive behavior supports. So, so it's systematic, meaning it's a process, it's a system. It's not just something and say, oh, you're going to do it and you're going to do it. No, it's a system. We all have common language and common understanding of what it is. And you guys have all heard of PBIS. You guys have PRIDE, right? And you guys have behavior expectations that have been identified in your building. So school-wide positive behavior support. You guys ever seen, you've probably seen this triangle. Has anybody ever seen the triangle? Okay. So we have a triangle, and it's broken up into 3 different pieces, okay? So the bottom part is 80%. 80% of our students will be okay with like tier 1 systems. That means your behavior expectations that are done in your school, the PRIDE. 80% of the students should be able to get through the day using those and be okay. They don't need any extra interventions, they don't need extra support, they just go do, and they're good. They know the expectations, they know what's being asked of them, and they're okay. But then we have about 15%, that's that yellow piece of the triangle. About 15% of our students, they need some extra supports. And we create interventions to help them. And it could be, there's 2 sides of the triangle. There's academic and then there's behavior. And so today we're really going to focus on just the behavior. But they might need some intervention. So maybe they need a social skills group where they work on social skills. I don't know what their interventions are in your schools, but so we take a group of kids that has similar issues, deficits. We put them in a group and we work on those to build up some skill sets. So then eventually they can come out of those interventions and they can join the rest of the 80% of our population. And at the tippy top of that triangle is only about 5% of our students. And those kids need individual support. And it's not for special education. It's not like, oh, the tippy top's just for special education. It's not. It's for any kid that really truly needs that individual support that's identified by some data and conversations within the school leadership team that they will sit and talk about things. So that it's called the MTSS triangle. And again, there's 2 sides, academic, behavior, and we're going to focus on behavior. So if a child doesn't know, so if kids don't know how to read, what do? We teach them, right? If they don't know how to swim, we teach them. My daughter's going to be 15, and she's gonna start driver's training. So never in my life would I say, here's the keys, Lex, hop in the car and just go. No, we wanna teach them. So if a child doesn't know how to behave, what do we typically do? Do we teach them? Or do we punish? Write a referral, get detention, out of school suspension. I don't know if you guys have in-school suspension, but we do those things. And we forget about the teaching. It's just like academics, just like any kind of sporting skill, driving, multiply, whatever the case is. We have to teach, and we have to teach behavior as well to our kids, even our high school students. And it's so hard for high school because people are like, they're 16, 17 years old. They should know better. Well, the adolescent brain does not fully develop until like their 20s. So they don't have all the executive functioning skills that they can act quickly and respond correctly. They probably know what's right from wrong, but put them in that situation, guess what? They're gonna take the risk. And they're gonna act and just act. My husband, 44 years old, and sometimes he just reacts, and I'm like, oh, is that adolescent brain still going on in there? What?
It is.
I get agreement there. But no, so the adolescent brain doesn't fully develop until into the 20s. And sometimes it takes, some kids get it early, some kids don't. Same, I pick on my 15-year-old daughter all the time. I'm so sorry, Lexia, I apologize. I asked her, I said, Lex, I said, there's clothes in the washer, I need you to take them out, put them in the dryer. I got home, guess what I found in my dryer?
Wet clothes.
Wet clothes. Because I wasn't explicit enough, I didn't say take the clothes out of the washer, put them in the dryer, turn the dryer on. They need those explicit instructions. They need to be taught. I mean, she knows how to do that stuff, but I had to be explicit and say, turn on the dryer. So I had wet clothes when I got home. So just remember, the adolescent brain isn't fully developed, so they're going to need some help in teaching. And I always think of it as a rose bush. So I'm gonna say middle school age, rose bush, we don't get beautiful roses unless we do what with the bushes? You have to prune it, right? And same thing with the adolescent brain, we have to prune, we have to teach, we have to model and show and reteach. And so we can bloom and get that the child to understand and then carry out the expectations. So I always kind of reference the rose bush. So why is it important to focus on prevention? We're going to watch this little video here. Oh, and is that not one to play? Oh, there it goes. Oh, alrighty then. We're going to look it up. I don't know why it's saying it's not available. Can you guys not access YouTube here?
Oh, no, we ex.
You guys can?
It just came up for me too. I just had to Google search it. I don't know
Okay.
if maybe the link changed, which it shouldn't, but.
Copyright.
There it is.
to do. And what did you guys notice when he was just kind of hiding behind the paper? What was he missing out on? Interaction. Missed out on so many opportunities where he could have interacted with students. Also, you saw the girls kind of running across. So if he was standing up, walking around, listening to students, he might be able to prevent. And that's what we want to do. PBIS is all about prevention. We want to be able to prevent things from happening. So standing up when active supervising, standing up, walking around, making sure that it's not the same routine, making it kind of spontaneous, because as soon as kids, I'm going to say high school probably a little bit better than some of the younger ones, if you are doing the same routine, like say hallway duty, and you're walking down hallways, and a group of students said, oh, Mrs. Smith, she's down the other hallway, we got 5 minutes to do whatever we want to do until she comes back. So they're very good at catching on the routine, so we need to make it that it's random, it's not the same all the time when we're walking around. We want to make sure that we're really tuning in to what kids are saying, because if you hear things that are starting to escalate, what do we need to do? We need to move over to that area. And then if we know bathrooms are a problem, we should probably make sure that we walk by those bathrooms a little bit more. Recess, if there's a certain play equipment that kids maybe fight over, or there's a lot of incidents that happen there, then more of your time should be spent there and walking around that area. So our students need us, and so this is just some research. So 24% of our students who drop out of school are unable to identify an adult in the school by whom they feel supported. So 24% of kids who drop out don't have a connection with any adult in the school. I worked with somebody and they said, well, I didn't drop out. She goes, but that was me. She said, I was an all-A student, and my junior year, I just tanked. I went from getting all A's to start getting D's, a couple E's. I wasn't a behavior problem, I just kind of sat there. But not once did an adult come to her and say, what's going on? What's happening? They just let her kind of skate by because there was no behavior problems, but she didn't have anybody that she felt like she could go to and talk to. Her parents were going through an awful, awful divorce, and it took a toll on her. And she had to kind of dig herself out by herself and help herself as a junior in high school. As early as preschool, students who demonstrate behavior problems that persist into elementary school are at significant risk of disengagement, school failure, social maladjustment. So if they're doing this stuff as little peanuts and there's no interaction, there's no teaching, it's going to continue on. And then you're going to see probably more escalated behavior when they get older. 20% of our children and youth have a clearly identified need for mental health service. But only about 1/3 of these children receive any help at all. In Genesee County, mental health in students is skyrocketing. We have so many students that have mental health. I worked at GCI for their special ed director for a little bit, and they said, we never had so many kids miss the first couple weeks of school. And I said, well, why? I said, they're missing weeks at a time. And they said, yeah. And I said, why? And they said, because they've all been admitted because of mental health. So it's sad. And then the second leading cause of death in our youth today, do you know what it is? So again, this work is prevention. How can we prevent? Creating a positive climate, making connections, building relationships. And so school climate, it's showing that if we have a positive school climate, it's going to make a positive impact on academic performance, and then also help with the mental health piece as well. So that's why this is all important. And a lot of people are like, it's just another thing we gotta do, it's another checklist, but really it's all about building relationships and preventing. So impacts of PBIS, it reduces the suspension rates. Schools in PBIS were 32% likely to receive an office discipline referral. And it's not that you cannot give office discipline referral, because sometimes it's absolutely needed. Or if you're showing that it happens over and over and over, yes. And referrals, it's not, oh, they need to be punished. A referral really is just documentation. It's paper collection so we can document and then talk about data. Oh, we have Kim, she has 5 referrals over the same thing. I think we need to start intervening probably more before the 5th one, but what are we going to do? How are we going to help? And then what is the why? Why is this happening? Because behavior really is communication and it serves a function. Positive effect for school level academic performance, so they're showing that if you have PBIS and it's decreasing behavior, then teachers get to spend more time doing what? Teaching. So therefore, in academic levels increase. It has a reduction in bullying and rejection. Service use, many of our kids will say, I came from the high school, so I need to go see the counselor, I need to go see the counselor, oh, I have to go see the social worker, and that would be like ongoing. But once they feel like they are welcome and have a positive culture and have relationships with their teachers, that stops, it decreases. And then there's a reduction in concentration problems and aggressive and destructive behavior. And ultimately, it improves their pro-social behavior and emotional regulation. So they're able to be self-aware and be able to regulate their emotions and needs. And it's a shift in philosophy, because for so long we used to think, what about the student is causing the problem? And sometimes people still think that way. What we really need to think about is, what about the interaction of the curriculum, the instruction, learners, and learning environment should be altered so the student will be successful. So there's a student, and then what about all these outside factors that we can control, like the classroom environment, the non-classroom settings, the structure, the curriculum. How can we alter that so a child can be successful? My grandma, who's 90, worked in education, and she'll always say, do you work with those bad kids? Do you have any bad kids? I'm like, there's no kids that are bad, Grandma. And she's like, well, there is. And I'm like, no. I said, it's behaviors is communication. It serves as a function. It's not that they're bad. They need help. They need to be taught. And we need to change things so the student can be successful. So again, it's that shift of philosophy. So little by little, I'm tearing down that old school wall with my grandma. And so intervention supports establish or emphasize on prevention of the problem through creating predictable environments, teaching appropriate behavior, and acknowledging the behavior. Provide behavioral interventions and support that matches students' need. Now, acknowledgement. You guys have the money, Mustang money. Is that throughout the whole district, or?
There's tickets no matter where you go. It just depends. The
Okay.
high school, they need
Right.
different kinds of incentives.
Pride tickets?
Yeah,
Okay,
we give them to the kids and then they put it in for a drawing.
perfect. So you guys have that school-wide acknowledgement system going on. Perfect. The foundation, students' behavior can be changed. And a lot of people think that behavior cannot be changed, and it definitely can. And behavior is learned. I love shoes. That's a learned behavior. Do you think I was born and then was like, oh, she's somebody that loves shoes? No, it was a learned behavior. My 90-year-old grandma, again, thanks to her. But behavior is learned. So that means if it's learned, it can be changed. It takes time. So if you have a behavior that has been going on, it's an old behavior, it takes like 20 times or so to change that behavior. If it's a new behavior, it takes about at least 8 times for that behavior to change. So yes, it can be changed. Environments can create or change a behavior. So kids at home that are, like my friend, her parents were going through that divorce. Did it change her behavior? Absolutely. So things that are taking place in environments can change behavior. Classroom settings can change behavior. If you go into a student that goes into a classroom and they have stuff all over the place, just visuals and colors and things hanging from the ceiling, etc., that might have an effect on the student's behavior, believe it or not. They're being overstimulated with all that stuff. Adult behavior must be changed in a consistent, systematic manner. So we need to look at ourselves too and change. And I think that's hard to do. As a teacher, we had things happening like, well, Kelli, you need to change this. And I'm like, me? Why me? It's the student. No, I had to change some things that I did so I could help the student change. So we need to look at us first. And that's hard to do. That's a hard thing to swallow. Systems of support are necessary for both students and adults. So the acknowledgement system, let's think about that. Do you guys carry the tickets on you? Do you guys hand out tickets?
Yeah.
So if you had tickets on you, so would that be a little bit more of a reminder to hand out those positive tickets? So the acknowledgement system isn't just so much for the kids, it's for us too. Because if we have those tickets, if we have them out, if we're in our sight, then that prompts us to acknowledge those students. And guess who needs to be acknowledged more? The students that probably struggle with some of the behavior expectations. But really the acknowledgement system is for us because it prompts us. I used to be, I admit my faults, but I used to like verbally praise and be like, oh, great job, I love the fact that you did your homework today. And we had, at Source Creek, we had like these business cards, and the kids absolutely loved them. And you wouldn't think that high school kids would, but they did, and they collected them. But I was really bad at handing those out. I just did a lot of verbal. And then I finally put them in my pockets. They would get washed in my clothes at home. Instead of free to take them out, but they were at my desk, and I just put them up so I could see, and it prompted me to use those. So again, the system isn't just for our kids; it's for us too. Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions, please, you guys are small group, ask. So we're gonna do a quick little self-assessment. So I want you to consider a time where you were supervising this week. Okay? So think about time that you had in the hallways, in the lunchroom, in recess. And you guys are going to complete a quick little self-assessment.
I can get you some if you.
Okay, I might have a couple of minutes.
Here's the pen right here. Anybody else need one? Something to write with? All right. This one doesn't work. I've got another one now.
Alright, so at the top, you don't have to put your name and date and stuff, but in that particular setting that you were thinking about that time, where was it taking place?
There you go. Thank you.
And you don't have to do the 4 to 1 because you guys don't have to do that. But just answer those 8 questions. And then tally it up. So I changed the bottom activity. With your elbow partner, you are going to share something that, you see at the bottom where it says, your supervision or so supervision. So I want you to share one thing that out of these questions that you feel that you do really, really well. You think, God, I am a great active supervisor. And then I want you to find one area that, wow, I should probably boost this up a little bit. And this is something I could do differently. So when next time in the lunchroom, next time I'm on the playground, this is something that I really want to work on. So with your elbow partner, one thing that you do really well, and then something that you're like, oh yeah, I could probably increase that.
So, anybody can work on that. And one thing you do good is, I think we are very active, and when we do patrol very well. I don't think we do a very good job when we're in very well.
Crazy?
When we're inside, we're really good on the playground, giving out money. When we're in the lunchroom, we have to. Yes, it's a little more chaotic and everybody's packed into. And there's a lot more to do with the cleaning and the everything, and stocking, but so.
Okay. I'm going to talk about that in a second because there was another school that struggled with that too.
Okay.
And there was a reason why.
Okay.
We'll talk about that next.
I know, right?
We're talking about how we work together, so like, Autumn just goes more towards the, she's giving it, you know, honest, so, like an issue, and sometimes a lot of, like,
She's real heavy on the heights.
so it's like, yeah, it's kind of a little different how we.
But then to the point where it's like, okay, I'm just
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
sitting down.
right, which we're trying to,
Like, do a good job of circulating and scanning, and I do a really good job when there's an issue. Or so,
Okay.
I get a pretty good response. But I don't, I wouldn't say it's like 4.
24 hours?
As far as
24 hours.
I don't know more about
He said, after he wakes up, he said,
others.
I said, all right, one sleep. I'm going.
I would say it's not 4. You'll adjust your overbreath.
He's like, so I get,
That's okay. I like the fact that you're here. Because I think
Right.
that's what family needs to know. So that's good that you're here. Right.
right, and that's what I think is, right.
I said, well, like,
Oh, trust me, I think every job says
works for me. I said,
Okay, so some things that I heard was down here at the end of the table, they talked about on the playground, they do a great job with the tickets, but then in the lunchroom, things a little bit more chaotic, cleaning up, etc. So it's hard to give out those tickets. So I was at another school in our county, and the lady said the same thing. They said it is so hard. So I do a lot of verbal, great job picking up your trash today, nice job, those things, but they weren't able to give out tickets. So we talked about what could we do. You could pre-fill them out. I don't know, do you have to check them or anything like
we have
that?
to put their names
They
on.
give their names on them.
Yeah, so that's something where they do write their names, or do they write their names?
They usually
yeah.
do.
Okay,
I mean, like kindergartners.
Kindergartners and first graders don't know how to spell sometimes,
Their
their
last
first
names.
and last name.
so that could be something where maybe they go back to the classroom and do, or they go home and do, you know what I mean? Or maybe for those ones, when they take them down to, because they take them to the office and put them in a box?
No, these ones go in a special drawing, they're the lunch, they're
In a
lunch
jar,
jar.
So that one, you might have to brainstorm how you're gonna do that one. But it could be, could they bring it back the next day and put it in, or whatever. But they created different tickets in, at the school that I was at for the lunchroom in particular, because it was too hard to check which one of the behavior expectations they were meeting. And then initial them themselves, because they wanted staff initials, and then the kid's name on them. So, they came up with a different ticket, and I think it was something about being a star. And I think they got something right away, they got like a starburst or something, that's what it was, they got a starburst. So, again, that's money, but, so it's just brainstorming, so bringing that back to your school, to the school leadership team, I don't know who's on that team, but bringing that back and then talking about that, okay, lunchroom, we wanna do more positive recognition. We can do a lot of praise, verbal praise, but our elementary kids, they like the tickets, right? So, what could we do to make sure this is happening? Is there somebody that, could help kids write names? I don't know what the case is. And a lot of times people are like, we don't have enough people, and I'm like, what are the custodians doing during that time? I'm like, well, they stand there and they go clean up. Well, could they help kids write names? Or could they help? And I had one school that they're like, we don't have enough people to do, signed planners, because these kids had to bring back planners signed, right? And of course, there's some families that they just don't have that at home. And I said, could you find somebody in their school, in the school, that could be that surrogate parent? And they said, absolutely, so they used a custodian. And they said, you'll never believe how great this is going. I said, you never know who makes connections. So look at everybody in that lunchroom. Who else could help? Who else could help a kid write their name? Or do you create a different ticket? So those are some brainstorming ideas, and just take back and say, this is an area that we're struggling in, to hand out some of those praise, so take that back. We're gonna talk about 4 to 1, you mentioned about 4 to 1, how do we praise, what are we saying? And then could there be a possibility that we're over-praising, where it's not meaningful anymore? And then we have a substitute that comes in and fills in, and she's like, tickets, so making sure our subs know about the tickets, and maybe when they come in, and that would be something that you can take back. Do you get like a key or anything when you check in? How do they know you're there? Right, so when you check in the office, maybe they have tickets there for subs to grab. Yeah. So, and that can be something that you take back. So it's these little things like this is awesome, because these things pop up saying, oh, how do we do this? I want to do this, but I don't know how to do this. So brainstorming, taking it back, and it'd be simple as put a basket there for people that come in, the subs, sub teachers, support staff, give them the stack of the tickets, and it could be like a little quick thing, and just give an explanation of what these tickets are for. Any other questions in this piece? And the self-assessment is for you, you don't have to, you can keep it, you can throw it away, whatever you want to do. So, why ensure we have active supervision? Again, it decreases problem behaviors. So it's going to decrease when we have teaching expected behavior, when we're walking around scanning, and then the use of pre-correction. So, I'll talk to elementary real quick. So when kids are done with lunch, do they go lunch then outside? So when they eat lunch, do they line up or do they just go out? They line up. So if you know, I'm going to say swings. I'm just going to make something up. Say the swings have been an issue all week. The kids are fighting over them, they're running underneath them, whatever happens. So when lining the kids up, you can do some pre-corrections and say, remember guys, we need to be responsible and safe on the playground, and how we're safe is that we make sure that we stay on the outside of the boundaries of the swings, we make sure that we wait our turn, and so we're doing pre-correction, so you're hitting some of those target areas that are issues out in the playground that you've been seeing, that you're noticing that is going on. Or I know at my daughter's school, there's no running in certain areas. So, and, I know my middle one, when she was in elementary there, she was like, I had to walk the perimeter again. running in the wood chips. And I'm like, Gracie, I'm like, you're gonna have more miles tracked than any student for walking that perimeter. But, you know, and if, so say that you work there and you knew Gracie was in trouble almost every day for running where she wasn't supposed to be, you know, just when she's lined up, hey Gracie, remember there's no running in those wood chips today. I know you know that you know you can do that. That's a way we're gonna be safe and be responsible. So you're gonna pre-correct, so then it cuts down some of those behaviors. Is it a fix all, save all? No, because you're still gonna have that one kid, right? But this is, that tier 1 is trying to meet 80% of our students, to make sure that we're getting 80% of our students to do what we expect them to do. Okay, so that's that pre-correction. And then high rates of positive reinforcement. And when we talk about reinforcement, it is making it meaningful. So, again, running. If she's noticed Gracie walking in the wood chips, she'd go, Gracie, I love the fact that you're being safe and you're walking today on those wood chips. Way to go. Here's a ticket. So it's really hitting some of those positive reinforcements, noticing the things that they're supposed to be doing. So tying it back to those expectations. So pride, tying it back to being positive, respectful, etc. So tying it back to those expectations and making it meaningful. So this is kind of our systems here. So you have the classroom setting, and we have to have a PBIS system there because the majority of our kids spend most of the time where? In the classroom. Then we have non-classroom settings where we probably see a spike in referrals that happen like in the hallway, the lunchroom, the bathroom, where it's a little bit unstructured, right? Because the classroom, our curriculum and instruction keeps things structured. But when it's out in the playground, lunchroom, etc., in the hallways, it's more unstructured time. We don't have that built-in structure of instruction. And then you have individual student supports. So that creates our school-wide. So this just talks about where supervision needs to happen. Assemblies, sporting events, dances, buses. Bus drivers going to be trained on Thursday. So buses and bus loading zones. Some schools have tons of referrals coming in from the buses, or how to even get on the bus. You're laughing, is that true?
My daughter's bus.
So again, where instruction is not available, we need to make sure that we're doing supervision, because that's going to be a tool for us. So discussion time. So working again with your elbow partner. I want you to pick one problem behavior that you've experienced. So I want you to think about one behavior that you came across with a student. And no one can say, oh, I have great students, there's never been any behaviors. Because I know that's a lie. So pick one behavior, and then I want you to identify what that behavior looked like. And you can write, if you want to brainstorm it out, you can write on the back of your sheet there. What did that behavior look like, and why might it be occurring? And then I want you to think about maybe what are some possible solutions or things that could have been done to prevent it. So what was that behavior? What did it look like? Maybe why was it occurring? And then what's something that I could do or what I could have done to prevent? Good? You guys are quiet. You had all last week to sleep in. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was hard getting up yesterday. I was like, really? Is this real?
But it is really hard to remember because it's been almost 2 weeks.
Yep, so what could you have done to prevent it, or even what could be something that happened afterwards?
more toughness. It needs to be addressed, it needs to be, because what, I forgot about it, because the home job, I would talk to her today about it.
Right.
Even though it's just that long ago, it still matters, it still needs to be addressed, because what she did was
Good.
not
Right, right.
even though, I mean, I'm in his face, I'm gonna come out.
It still needs to,
Let
right,
her know
right, like this, right,
that, and then,
right,
30 more seconds and we're gonna do a share out.
right.
All right. So who would like to share the behavior problem that they encountered? Oh, she volunteered you. She did. How nice of her.
I mean, I go with
We have a kindergartner and she's sometimes acts out, but we really need to like work with her. And so I think like she does things where, you know, like Julie was saying, you know, is there things going on at home or, you know, you're just trying to work with her, being such a young age, you know, they still, you know, I think are trying to get used to everything, you know, and we had her, she's just small enough to fit underneath the lunch tables and she, you know, wouldn't get out and doing some naughty things at lunch, and so she's something, you know, somebody that we try to be positive and try to understand and everything.
when she's doing well.
Yeah.
So, what do you think you could do to prevent or to pre-correct before you go down to the lunchroom? Maybe not necessarily you, but is there a communication to that teacher to say, this is what's taking place when she comes down to the lunchroom? Because it could be that it's too much for her in that lunchroom.
That's, I think, for quite a few kids.
Yeah, lunchroom's hard.
Mhm.
So having conversations with the teacher and keeping them informed, of saying this is when it takes place, but then what could you do to prevent? And maybe it is leading up to the lunchroom saying, okay, we're gonna head to the lunchroom, remember, this is what we need to do. And it could be, and here goes my special ed side, but she needs like maybe a visual schedule, say we're gonna get our lunch, we're gonna eat, we're gonna throw our trash away.
Yeah, like she can't sit with a certain girl
Yeah.
at lunch. We have
So-
to pay attention to that.
And because of the behavior, like she's done inappropriate touching behaviors with kids, and so it's easy for a child to get a reputation even as a kindergartner, like,
Right.
oh, this is
Yeah.
a, you know, like, stay away from her kind of thing.
Right.
And so one of the ideas that we had too was, if she's doing that because she's needing attention, then if we can give her positive attention and she feels like she is welcome there, then she might not have a need to do these other things to get the negative attention. Because it's always easier for a child to get negative attention than it is positive.
So one of my favorite sayings is, the behavior that we tend to the most is the behavior we're gonna see more of.
Right.
So
Whatever
if a
you
kid is,
praise, you will get more of.
yeah, so if a kid is acting out or doing things to gain attention, and we keep attending to that behavior, they're gonna continue doing that. Where if we get them to do what we expect them to do and you attend to that, you're gonna see more praise. I keep using my own family, because I can pick on them. But, my youngest, who is now 7, I did that. I attended to the behavior that I really didn't want to see more of, but it continued on. And she slept in between my husband and I until the age of 5. 1, I was rewarding myself because I didn't want to play musical beds. 2, I was rewarding her because she got to sleep right in the middle of us and she got exactly what she wanted by crying. Oh, I don't want to sleep in my room. And it was me, my baby, so I got what I wanted, but I definitely attended to that. Then I fed right into that negative reinforcement, right? So it took some time. We traded bed on the floor, and then she had a TV in her room, and then finally she's in her bed. But same thing, so if we keep attending to the behavior underneath the table, and then it's gonna continue to happen. So what can we do beforehand? So what is the trigger that causes that behavior? So we need to look at what is taking place before that behavior occurs. That's part of that behavior science stuff. Another issue. You guys have perfect kids? We need one more. You say no.
No, we don't, no.
So what's a problem that you have dealt with this week, or last, well, I can't even say last week, the week before?
Well, just take, I mean, I had a problem yesterday with one of our fourth graders, screaming in the lunchroom, he was screaming inappropriate things.
It's 9 o'clock.
I had somebody from the office had to come down and get him, because there's, you know, this is an ongoing thing with this one particular student. He comes down, he sits at a certain table, gets riled up with a certain number of boys, and then he can no longer control himself. You know, and he tries to outdo everybody else who's sitting with him, and you know, I know he just wants the attention, good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter to him, as long as the attention is on him. As far as it goes for trying to correct that beforehand, there's not, I don't really know how to,
So if he
what I
wants,
would do before he even comes into the, because I don't see him before he comes into the lunchroom,
so that, again, that's that communication piece, making sure that teacher knows exactly what's going on.
Right.
So they can maybe do some kind of preventative things as they're walking down to the lunchroom. Another piece would be, he wants the peer attention.
Right.
So, talking to that student and saying, hey, what would you like to do? What do you think it would be so great that you could do? And like give him the spotlight, and maybe he gets to be like, I don't know, a helper in the lunchroom, whatever the case is, so like attention's on him.
Right.
I don't know, kids like to do that in elementary school, be the helper or whatever, but, so what else could you do to put the spotlight on him, but he's also doing a good deed?
Right.
And maybe that would help. Again, I don't know the student, I'm just throwing out some quick ideas.
Right.
So finding out that why, if it is really peer attention, and then what could we do to put the spotlight on him, but in a positive way?
Okay.
Or if he doesn't scream and do those things, you could do a token thing with him, whatever the case is.
Right.
So those are some things, and you're in the lunchroom, so there's not just him, there's like, how many kids, 50 kids or 30 kids, whatever in that lunchroom. So it's gonna take a team to think about that and work with that.
Right.
But it's, what do you do beforehand, and what could you set up for him to be that, in that spotlight in a positive way?
Right.
So, just some ideas. Anything else?
Well, I have a kindergartner, I don't know what to help prevent, but, they had issues with him all day yesterday. He was in the office pretty much the entire day. And at recess, they were outside, it started pouring down rain. And instead of, when we're trying to get him in, he tried to run off. And then we get him in, he's in the room running around, hitting all the kids, hitting me. And I had him go out in the hall and talk to him and had him go to the office. And the principal came by and said, "Go back to the office again." I don't really know where to
Begin with him?
begin when it's, you know, all day. Like I sat in a room with him, had him bounce and play ball and stuff for a while, and you know, and gave him positive interactions while he was doing that. But he,
So, with that particular student, I'm guessing he's probably not just that tier 1 student. He needs some other supports in interventions put in place if he's bouncing and doing some sensory things. So a lot of this, like the stuff that we're talking about, it's for that 80%. So how do we keep those kids at 80%? The ones that we're seeing, this is a continuous thing, like it happens 3 times out of the week, then those are things that are like red flags. Oh, what's going on? What do we need to do? So again, so some of this like the basic active supervision, that's that 80%. How do we get 80% of our kids to do that? So your student might be a kid that is a red flag, that needs some more individualized supports or group supports, intervention-wise. But just I don't know if you do any documentation with that student, but documentation is key. Because if you have the data to show, then that gives talking points of what can we do to help him or her. So, and if he's bouncing, it sounds like sensory. Some comment. So, you got the communication. So, I don't have a whole lot for yours because I'm thinking it's probably more than just that tier 1 kid. Okay. So, you guys want a break real quick? Do like a 5-minute break? Alright, 5-minute break. And then we'll get into the big ideas and then get some 4 to 1 and get you guys some strategies. And I'm losing my voice.
Talk to you later.
Perfect. Alright, so there's 6 big ideas of PBIS. And they're identify expectations, teach them, monitor, acknowledge, correct, and then using information for decision making. So that data that we collect or your office discipline referrals, using some of that information to make decisions on what we need to adjust. So the first one is identifying. There are 3 to 5 expectations. They're short, they're positive, you can remember them, and those look familiar. Do I have them correct? All right, so those are your expectations that you guys have decided on as a district. So they are 3 to 5, they're short, they're rememberable, they're positive, because back in the day it used to be no, do not, no. So we want to change that and make them positive. When I say back in the day, I mean like when I was in school, I remember walking in and it's like, no gum, no backpacks. So we kind of changed that. And then we want to teach those expectations. So we identified what they are. Now what do they look like and how do we want kids to behave in all settings? So classroom, in the hallways, on the bus, on the playground, in the lunchroom, in the media center. So all those locations that you feel like there probably could be some behaviors, we want to create a behavior matrix, which I'll show you in a second. Behavior matrix that is going to say positive looks like this in the hallways. Respectful looks like this in the hallways. So your school has done that. And then, so we create the matrix and then you teach those behaviors in the actual setting. And we teach by showing examples in non-examples. And we do this so we can be preventative, so we're showing kids, and we don't just do it one time and we don't talk about it anymore. That's where the acknowledgement piece comes back in, and the corrective. If you need to do any corrections, you always tie it back to the expectations. This is not yours as matrix. I don't have a copy of your matrix, but this is from, check out the internet because they're all over the place. But you guys probably have something very similar where it has pride down the side, and then it has the locations where they feel that there's probably going to be some behaviors that could arise in those areas. So for playground, for cooperation, they have take turns, share equipment, follow playground and game rules. Let's see, respect, be responsible for own actions. Cafeteria, eat most or all of your food and drink, stay in my own space. Pride, clean up after myself. Respect, use table manners, etc. So your school has created a matrix, I believe. Is that correct? Okay. Have you guys seen a matrix? Yes? So that would be something too. And I can do kind of notes and just say, make sure that all support staff has seen the matrix. So you guys know what the playground expectations are, or the cafeteria, or the hallway, etc. Because those are important, especially for supervision, doing active supervision. Because if you need to refer back to the matrix and say, in order to be safe or be respectful, we need to be demonstrating this. So that is important. So, I'm gonna have you guys stand up and move. You're gonna find somebody else in the room, and I want you to kind of go through these questions. It's supposed to be with your school, but we're gonna mix it up. Get you guys moving. So, when were the playground expectations taught to the students in your school? And you can use, for high school, you can use cafeteria. Does that one work? And then elementary, do you have more issues in lunchroom or playground? Or is it kind of hand in hand?
I would say, I have my issues inside the lunchroom than outside, absolutely.
So you can do both. You can go both. So when have the lunchroom and playground expectations been taught to your students? Indoor recess, has expectations been taught there? And then have they been retaught? You should reteach them, especially after big break. So when we came back from winter break, should have been taught probably Monday, since we had like another winter break, just given to us. Kind of going back and doing some reteaching. So go ahead and mix it up with somebody different. Talk about, have those expectations been taught and have they been retaught in your building? So find somebody from a different building, so everyone has to stand up and move, no sitting. We're gonna get that blood flowing.
Pretty much. We're all trying to get them here.
That's okay, you can have group of three, perfect.
Alright.
There you go.
I know, we were saying, from the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and then the classroom too, it's never like, we never taught you how to do it.
Right. We just kind of keep it going.
Right.
We should try to keep them like. Right, or remind them. Like, especially when it gets like a mom, you're, talk to the neighbor, not like everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, kids are like, but,
What we're supposed to do,
all outside.
walk into a classroom, you don't really know yourself what is allowed. You just have to go by what the kids are saying.
And every day it's different.
Yeah.
Because some days the teachers don't want to go.
The teachers, they
Especially I think when it comes to the teachers, and I guess I should do this. Keep it here, and so tomorrow she says that, she's like, I come to my classroom, and then it's crazy, and so she's like, should we think of another way to get them, like, rather than just doing this, so that's true too. They didn't get to go back, being a teacher. There's always, you try to keep a special eye on, like, I know I have a moment soon, or, if it's not going, even the third graders go out, and he's like, I'm done, I'm going. Well, we have to sit to, and talk to you, and, yeah, I promise this. We try to keep, like, I had a culture about to be on second, maybe we can try to find a different way for this specific student, because then he'd go into our classroom, and then he'd be all off, and so maybe we can think of different things, and so we're just kind of saying, try to keep the rules going when we get to them, so that, can finish their day and be how they're supposed to be.
Right, absolutely.
So have the expectations been taught in the playground or lunchroom too, if they brought kids down, taught those expectations?
No, I mean, they don't bring them down, they usually talk to them in the classroom.
And then,
Right.
or if they have certain issues, maybe they'll come to us and say, hey, so-and-so is a little, out of their,
teachers probably go over the change before some of these
yeah.
like yesterday, we started pouring.
Right.
And going into a and they're like, what is it to do?
I mean, I think you guys know.
Alright, this is,
And each classroom is different.
right.
Because there was a couple weeks ago, we had an indoor recess, and they were playing with the toys in the classroom, and I didn't know if they could or not, and they're like, yeah, we can.
Right.
Teacher comes back, and she's like, I told you guys, you cannot get the toys out.
Right, so then you're put in a spot where you're like,
Yeah.
right,
Like, my situation, they're allowed to be on, the Chromebooks, but they all have to sit in their chair.
and be on it.
And be on anywhere
Other
other classes aren't
classrooms.
allowed to have Chromebooks at all.
Right. Right, you know,
Okay.
so, yeah, try to pay attention to each.
All
Yeah.
right, go ahead and head back to your seats. So talking with the group back here, they mentioned indoor recess, and for one classroom, they may be able to play with certain things, but then in the other classroom, they can't. And she was explaining that the student said, yeah, we can play with those toys, but then teacher came in and said, no, they're not supposed to be doing that. So making sure that we have the expectations for indoor recess may be posted, because you have to know them as well, right? So, I mean, I can imagine you probably felt like, hey, you know, because you didn't know. That'd be like me going and taking the new job at the ISD, and they have like a closed toe policy. It's more for if you're in the classroom teaching, but I love open toe shoes. And so I probably would have walked in and been like, hey, I'm here first day with my open toe shoes, and someone probably would have corrected me, and I would have been like, oh. But if, you know, they told me that, so I knew. But if they didn't tell me, I don't know what I don't know. So, and she didn't know what she didn't know. So making sure that we have, you know, the expectations for indoor recess, absolutely. And so they're in the classroom, so it could be different in every classroom. And she was explaining Chromebooks. One teacher allows Chromebooks that be in there, and there's rules for the Chromebooks, but not the other classrooms can't use the Chromebooks. So there's inconsistent rules in every classroom, and that's probably okay. I don't know. But that might be something you guys can talk about. I put in my notes just some things that you guys have said, so I can provide some feedback. Anything else? And you guys are at different elementary. You said they're taught the expectations in the classroom, the same with you guys, that you know of.
Yeah, we just kind of try to keep it going.
Okay. And so something that might work, and that's something, again, brainstorm, not my decision, totally up to your guys' buildings, but bringing them down to the cafeteria and teaching them in the cafeteria and showing them examples and non-examples. This is how we throw trash away. This is how we don't throw trash away. This is how we go through the lunch line. This is how we don't go through the lunch line, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with playground, actually teaching them the expectations on the playground. High school.
The thing I can see with that is because in the elementary school, you share the cafeteria with the gym, you know, it's all in one. So we haven't tried getting in there with the gym teacher.
So this,
That's the only,
right,
you know, thing I can see with that.
so there's this, through PBIS, there's this thing called the kickoff. And at the beginning of the school year, you teach the expectations in using that matrix. So you're gonna teach on all those things. So you create this coordinated kickoff. And so that's when it would probably be done, and they would coordinate that, so there wouldn't be like a mix-up. And then when you do the reteaching, you could create cute little videos, whatever, schools do videos, they do a bunch of different things to be able to do the reteaching. And the reteaching can happen right in the classroom. But would it be beneficial to teaching them in the actual setting? Same thing with high school, teaching them in the cafeteria. They might need to be able to see that, because we need visuals too. One school, not in our county, but it was a different county, their high school, because they're like, who wants to teach kids, bring them into the gym and say, these are the gym expectations, or this is how we have to act in assembly, because again, it's buy-in, it's like high school, right? So what they did is, in those different locations, they taught the expectations, but they also taught something else. So in the gym, they taught the expectations for assembly and whatever happened out, like sporting events. But then they taught the school fight song. Then in the cafeteria, they taught the cafeteria expectations, and then they taught kids how to figure out the GPA. Then over in whatever area, they taught the expectations of that, but then they also talked about how you're going to apply for college or whatever. So they taught different stuff that's going to be meaningful for high school kids. Or they did sporting eligibility. So they taught different things that high school kids need to know. So I'm trying to get one school to do it, but they didn't do it. I just thought it is monitor expected behavior. So again, that's kind of where you guys come in for the active supervision. Again, we talked about that. So classroom versus non-classroom is teacher directed, instructionally focused, and there's small predictable students, so it's very controlled. Non-classroom, it's student focused, social focused, right? Especially high school. And then there's a large number of unpredictable students in groups. So cafeteria, playground, hallways. So therefore we need active and systematic supervision. And 3 things that we need for active supervision: moving, scanning, and then interacting. And that would come with the acknowledgement. So moving, you want to make sure that you're constant and it's obvious. You want to make sure that your presence is known, that you're there, they know that you're going to be there, that you're walking around. You want to be in proximity to all students. So many times I've seen, sometimes teachers have to be out in the hallway during passing time or before school, and this is sometimes what we say, when we say, well, there needs to be active supervision. And so the teachers are out in the hallway, right? And they're doing this with their coffee and their other colleagues' coffee, and they're just sipping, hey, what did you do yesterday? Oh, those snow days were great. And then we forget about doing the scanning and making interaction. So making sure that we're in close proximity with the kids, that we're right there. Because if we're not, we can't hear certain things. We want to be random and unpredictable. So if you guys were, we're going to use, this is a classroom setting. So I would never make my pattern predictable. I wouldn't go up and down the rows. I would probably go here, maybe I'd step here and go up this way and come back this way. And then where I know there's problems, let's say they're just, chatty back here, I'm probably going to hit this spot more than I'm going to hit that spot over there. So you want to know where some of these things are happening, okay? And you want to be positive and interactive. So we want to catch kids doing great things and tying it back to the expectations. And again, target that problem area. So if that was the chatty area, I'm going to target that area. Recess, if it's swings, you're going to target swings. You're going to make sure you are going around those swings. Lunchroom. There's always a couple tables where especially in high school, yep, that's the area that I need to target. You're going to make sure that you're around that area a little bit more. And you're going to interact and positively acknowledge those students at that table as well. And then scanning. You want to make sure that you have contact with everybody, that you can see what's going on. So indoor recess. Make sure you're standing in a place and you're scanning so you can see everything. Because if you can't see kids and they know you can't see them, there's probably something's not going on that should be going on. And then look and listen for signs of a problem. So you want to make sure that you're listening. Because where you hear a lot of scuffling and voices starting to get a little bit higher and louder, there's probably an issue. So we need to go over there and stand there and then interact and say, what's going on? And talk to them. And Anita Archer, who I love, she uses walk around, look around, talk around. So we walk around, we're doing a lot of walking, right? And I'm looking. If I'm over here, at my chatty group over here, I can still see what's going on over there. So I never stop looking to see what's going on. And then I'm talking. So if I know that over here sometimes they have issues, they're great friends, but they start to bicker, and you know how that happens. We're good friends today, we're BFS, tomorrow we're not BFS. Such an elementary thing. But if I know that happens, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do some talking and be like, girls, I love that you are respecting each other today. You guys are showing great signs of friendship. This is great. Keep it going. So I'm talking. Again, I never lost contact with my chatty group over here. Okay? And I'm walking. And it's tiring. So get that Fitbit on, get those steps. Okay? And that's one piece I do miss about teaching is that interaction and just moving in my Fitbit, the steps, right? But anyways, so making sure that you're doing all that and scanning. And I don't know the legal aspects of it, but like bus drivers, there is, so they have to scan all the mirrors after a certain time. So even they have to regulate and do scanning for to look. So making sure that we're doing that. All right, this is where your artistic abilities are going to come out. So, we are going to draw. Because I didn't know high school was going to be here, and that's okay. So what I want you guys to work on is the lunchroom, okay? So you are going to sketch out the lunchroom, okay? And I want you to maybe put X's, you can do like the little code, and put X's of where adults should attend, and maybe where they should walk. For you guys, I'm going to split you up. One's going to do playground, and then you guys can do lunchroom. Perfect. And then you guys can decide if you want to do playground or lunchroom. Okay. So you guys are going to sketch it out, sketch your area out, draw where people should tend to stand so they can see all areas, and then consider how to best move throughout that area to maximize active supervision.
Oh, okay.
But this happens to be there, we know what it is. Oh, and then there's the card over here.
You guys doing playground? Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Like, so you really
It's just, no, you should be walking.
Most of the time, if it's.
This,
well, then there's a lunch lady who's always stand. And there's, or that's not lunch lady, that's lunch service person.
This area, it's more that,
One stands back there.
it's more this way, especially when it has
all right.
snow banks. That's stuff, kids are
Yep,
always
that's
in these
right.
areas.
Might as well put them all in there, we're gonna be doing it, right?
So then that person would get to see this.
And that's us.
And then back to like, this area, it's well, this way, we didn't know what.
Yeah, like why?
Yeah.
You're quite the artist.
Pretty good.
I know.
This.
They didn't get the harder of the two.
I know.
It's not our job. Well, it's the house.
Right. Which, and I think, it's hard because some kids are, so then some kids take it too far. It's like, yeah, okay.
They printed it out for us.
That's like, right.
Yeah, they have to, yeah.
You don't know,
Something,
yeah, so
right.
this area.
No, right.
Yeah, as you can see.
Exactly, exactly.
So,
Is the one thing conversations?
Right.
sometimes I say,
We don't know, right? And until you do, you.
This is my
Yep.
area.
so if we, like she says, this area, like the slide, kids, go up and
Right.
kids usually down, like that, or playing tag around this area. Like it seems like this over here, or right here, like this, like half of the kids go this way,
Right.
see them,
But then we can
their
learn
back was turned.
Right.
And they were little, like they were, little ones, or like the woods are back here. So we'll try to get back in there and, kids do that and then we took off and actually, they were in the woods and then when Ashley was the whole trip, they took off and tried to like round line up, it's like we're still going.
Right, so I got someone there doing some active supervision, preventing a
That's
lot
not
of
problem with
this.
first grade, it's just they're poking, you know, too far. There's the eaters, there's the dresses, there's just, they just poke.
Awesome, so we're gonna share out. So do you share out? Typically you're sharing here, but
Like more, yeah.
yeah, and then, right, so you guys can come back and you can go do scan walks, like that, that'd be great. Go back again.
That's true.
First grade is our
Kind of
problem.
just, yep.
And I have to say, it's nice that there's four of us in there when the board meeting.
Right. It's 200.
Right.
How's it going?
But I need to still keep moving and scale.
It's quite the
So,
hardest over there.
I know you, I think you're doing a great job. So are you finding anything that you're like, oh, we should really monitor this area a little bit more? That parking lot's here, so.
And there's no fence, and this is
The
the
main
best.
parking lot up front,
Right.
but if you have like a back parking lot,
Sure, it's parked back there.
the basketball, the ball, just balls go through the parking lot.
Okay.
So
And so
we have- I
typically
did not know
where
that.
do the support
Okay.
staff stand?
Go walk.
You guys walk?
Perfect.
Okay.
The smaller kids, we don't allow on like the tax, like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good. You might not like want to go to movies. Or just on the side. So she's like, yeah.
And security, because they have kids that. And they'll knock on the door, and you don't
Yeah.
have to open it, and pass them in McDonald's instead of having to do it.
Good ear.
I think there should be a fence
Right.
Gotcha. So you need
So is
really.
that something that, I don't know, or
I think so.
or in the cafeteria?
What's supposed to freeze overnight or something?
Yes, it just.
Okay. Like me, I'd be like, oh. And it's probably be like,
I think they should be a fence over to seniors and more.
it could be anywhere around them.
One person.
Like,
No.
So that could be where you teach expectation, is that eye care, and then
Yeah. Over to the other side.
Oh, really? Okay. And then usually I'm like,
But then think about it, if you continue to do that
Really?
monitoring, like, not make it predictable.
oh, that's my answer.
Right.
You're like, they could be anybody in there.
I think
So that's another one.
one area
Yeah.
right,
But
Right, so you kind of got it.
right.
it's just.
I try and just, but yeah, you walk.
All right, let's come back together and let's do a quick share out. So you're gonna share your beautiful drawings. And then talk about where you feel that maybe you need to spread out or do something a little bit differently, or you found an area where we don't attend to that area and that's something that we really need to focus on and do a little bit more active supervising. Do you guys want to start?
Sure.
All right, show your beautiful drawing. Gorgeous.
We have a picture of the Edgerton playground. We have two major playscapes. The one playscape has a curve slide, and the children will tend to, they want to play tag on it, so that one is more dangerous than the other one. And certain grades are more likely to be doing that, so at certain times of the recess schedule, we need to be closer to this to make sure they're not using the playscape for tag because they could push each other off the slide. And then we also have woods, so we have to be careful to watch the area, like, okay, you can go in the grass to play your football games and whatever, but, no going in the woods. Don't kick your ball in there.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side, we had, that somebody needs to be on the opposite side of the playground to be careful, to be watching so that kids don't go around the edge of the school toward the parking lot.
Yeah, we're even actually on this way too, because it's all open
Yeah,
here too.
because the playground's not fenced in. So especially those children, like the kindergarten children or the children that are at the top of the triangle.
Really watch.
Yeah, where they're not necessarily likely to play with someone else, they're more susceptible to going off on their own.
Right. High school.
Okay.
Lunchroom has a little bit more easy, they just got straight lines tables. Sorry, I didn't get started.
But our thing is I'm out here in the hallway, because I get pulled in the office to work a lot. But I bounce around out here, so I watch actually down a hallway this way, a hallway down this way, plus then I keep an eye on in the cafeteria. But then we have a back door here, and then over here we have another door where, what's Project Choice, special needs kids, will come in and sit. So I can watch almost the entire cafeteria just standing here, even at the store. Because when you're all by yourself, that's almost where you have to stand.
What you have to do.
So can you leave that post, or do you have to stay there?
Technically, you can leave, but you really should be watching inside. We have certain kids, like, we kind of have like little gestures, like. And when they go back here by the vending machines, there is a camera, but it's not very good. It only shows just a small little area. And there's also the band room back there, so I mean, I do know many kids go back there and, to start class early or anything. But back there at the vending machines, kids come up, because they were outside, or they don't want to have to walk all the way around the front, and their friends will let them in. We have kids getting McDonald's, Subway, whatever, getting dropped off. And we're like, no, you guys have to go around to the front. And I mean, because, you could be bringing my kid food, you're not on my kid's emergency card.
Right.
And, or else it's just, oh yeah, my boyfriend's bringing me McDonald's, but he's not on my emergency card, but they know him.
So that's a system problem. So within the cafeteria, if there's 3 of you, could you do some active supervision where, okay, it's my turn, I'm gonna do a scan, I'm gonna walk through the tables and do some positive acknowledgement, come back to my post. Then you guys are doing kind of like at a indoor pool, Great Wolf Lodge or whatever, where you have the lifeguards are scanning, and then they leave their post, they go do a quick walk around, look around, and they come back to their post. So could that be something where you guys coordinate and do a quick walk, come back to your post?
Because in the cafeteria, to me, you should not be standing still. You should be walking around at all times.
Yes. And then interacting with kids, absolutely.
And that's, a few years ago, the kids kind of knew, because I would take the trash can and kind of shove it into the table, so it would just kind of shake the table a little. Next thing you know, that table was cleared, because they would all start setting all their trash down and move it to another table. And that was how they cleaned up their trash, is because, when I seen that they were mostly done, I just kind of shoved the can in them, and they took care of their trash that way.
Good. You guys had cafeteria?
Yes.
We have 5 tables on each side. We only fill up one side at a time with each grade, so we just kind of patrol the sides, each side. We have our lunch ladies, or our kitchen staff that stands up here that kind of helps patrol as we're doing it. And we just kind of watch as.
So did you find anything that, we should stand here more, or?
Not really, 'cause
We're constantly
we're
moving.
constantly moving,
Yes.
because there's 2 of us always in here, so it's.
Yeah, plus we have the custodian in there.
Plus we have the custodian that's
she,
also
yeah,
in there that's
walks
constantly
around.
moving.
And he's
with us.
she's moving
always
too?
Yeah, she moves
moving
around,
with
she's
us.
talking with the kids.
She's constantly helping us.
I love it.
She always helps us, them open stuff and
That's
whatever
awesome.
we need help with, she's there to help us.
I
Right.
love it, that's awesome. I like the collaboration, teamwork, that's awesome. You guys had the playground.
Sure. We are constantly walking everywhere on the entire playground. Some of the issues is we have one slide that the kids are trying to climb up and stuff, so we have to watch that one. And we have a lot of the kids that like to play ball on thing in our parking lots there, so I'm always constantly trying to keep an eye, a kid not running to get balls into the parking lot and, things like that.
We have a nature center and behind the nature center is woods. The beginning of the year, we had problems with the kids going into the woods. And so we had to put a stop to the nature center altogether.
So is that maybe something that there's conversation and teach those expectations, and how do you gradually bring that back? Because natural consequences, we don't know how to use it, we don't get it, but how do we teach them how to use it? So how many people are out there at one time, adults? 2 of you? And then what about? 2. Okay. Awesome. And like they pointed out that there is a common area where sometimes they'll stand and get caught, so how do you go scan, come back, debrief, go scan, come back, debrief, to do those things too. So, nice job, you guys.
And a lot of times the kids, I was telling her, a lot of times the kids want to have me like push them on the swings, and I did for a while. They were always, asking me to do that, but then I felt like I wasn't watching
The rest. Yeah. And that's hard, because you want to build those relationships, but at the same time, you still got to do this part of your job. Yeah, so absolutely, I get it. The next piece is acknowledgement, and we talked about you guys have the tickets up at the high school, and then you guys have the money, the Mustang money. So how do you use those? Positive contact, you guys know, friendly, helpful, it's proactive, it's non-contingent, and use it often. So what I mean by non-contingent is, oh, great job, I love it, I like your sweatshirt. Oh, you got a haircut, it looks good. So it's just kind of giving praise and being positive, but not tying it to expectations. And then positive reinforcement is immediate, and it's contingent on following a behavior expectation. So thank you so much for being so responsible and throwing your trash away. Thank you so much. So I'm tying it, and I immediately did that positive reinforcement. So because I went to one school and I said, are you using your tickets? And they said, yeah, I do. Sometimes, I'll give it to them like 2 days later, and I'm like, then they forget. So that's that immediate. They need that immediate praise, and lots and often. And the kids that struggle, they need more of it. Sometimes we had track at Swartz Creek High School one year, and it was the good kids that were getting more tickets. And it really, not that the good kids can't get tickets, but we kind of need to reverse it a little bit, where those kids that struggle, they need more tickets. There's different ways to do it. It's quick, noticeable, and then 4 to 1. What it means by 4 to 1 is 4 positive to 1 negative. So, if she's walking in the school, and I might say, please don't run in the hallway, that's a negative. Even though I said it so nicely, that's a negative. So throughout the day, she needs 4 positives to make up for that negative. And a lot of times we say, oh, I'm so positive, I do it all the time. And I went to a teacher's room, and she's like, count all the times, and I did. And it was more negative, because she please don't, or please get out your homework, please turn. That's all corrective. And she's like, oh, I thought that was positive. You said it really nicely, but still is a corrective. So how do you change that? So if I did say, oh, we need to be responsible, we need to be safe, we need to walk in the hallway, and then I'll see her walking, I'm like, oh, great job being safe, nicely done. So I quickly gave her a positive for something that she was doing right that I corrected earlier. So we want to make sure that we're doing the 4 to 1, and that 4 is meaningful, it's purposeful, it's tying to expectations. Does that make sense for what you talked about earlier? A little bit, I need to do more of the 4. Just tying it to expectations.
Actually, I do have a question about that.
Yes.
The way you explained it just now, is the goal more to give positive reinforcement to children who are specifically struggling with certain things? or just,
It's all students.
or as opposed to positive contact, you wanna have positive contact with everybody?
You want to have positive contact with everybody, so you want to do contingent and non-contingent. The non-contingent is, great sweatshirt, I like your sweatshirt. And sometimes you have to do those non-contingent for those kids that are kind of, you have to tear down the walls a little bit. So let's say she struggles and it's hard getting to her, right? So I'm giving a lot of non-contingent. Nice sweatshirt, oh, you make music? Show me one of your music videos you did. And you're building connection that way. And so finally I built that connection. Now I can do more contingent. Yes, you did your homework. Great job. Thanks for being so responsible. Because she was struggling not doing homework, she didn't participate in class, but I made my relationship, my connection with doing non-contingent. Now I can do contingent, and now she's doing more things that we want her to do. But we want that 4-to-1 to be for all kids. All kids. Did I answer that?
Yes.
And then PBIS it's for all kids, all staff members, all involved. There's research in here, I'm gonna kind of fly through this stuff for you. Rewards, positive reinforcement, appropriate school behavior is needed. Students need very clear, informal reward system. They need to know why they're getting it. And then sometimes when you keep handing out the tickets, oh, great job, it's gonna lose its value. So again, so overdoing it and tying it back to the expectations is needed, okay? Here's my ideas, you guys already have yours established. So let's just talk out loud based on time here. So what are some positive contacts that you do every day with students?
What do we do? When we're out on the playground, anybody who collects a ball for us out there, we give tickets to.
Give tickets. So what are some of the things that you do for all students? Have you guys seen those videos where the kids are lining up and they do high fives, or they have the special handshake? The teacher has the special handshake for every kid. I could never remember that. But some of the teachers do that, or the little ones, they get to pick if they wanted high five or hug or whatever. So what are something that you do for all kids? Like I used to stand in the hallway, I'd stand right in the middle of the hallway and I'd be like, hey, it's so great to see you, great job, oh, nice job, at your basketball game last night. So I was in the hallway, and I didn't have a classroom as a TC at the high school, and kids would just fly, and I would just high five or whatever, smiles, thumbs up. But I did have my non-contingent, his name was Michael, and he was someone that I had to peel back those layers, tear down that wall, like took me 2 years. And I knew everywhere, I knew all his classes, I knew where he was at, I knew where he hung out, and so I would do my high fives, whatever, and then I would hurry up and run to the other side of the school and be in that hall, and I'm like, oh, Michael, you're here today, look at those dimples shining, oh, so great, you're here. So then I would run back to my spot, and then second hour would come, and I would go back to another hallway where I knew Michael was, and I'd be like, hey, Michael, you're still here, great, how was first hour? So I was hitting my struggling kid, but then I was always doing the high fives and just being me in the hallways. So what are some things that you're doing for all kids?
Just trying to pay attention and smile to them and try to talk to as many as you can, and, you know, certain ones will come up, you know, be like, hey, and hug, and so you just kind of watch them come in and make sure that, you know, that's pretty much.
Anybody have anything like something they do every day, like a ritual, or they just do it every day?
I work the school store in the mornings, and so I'm grading
Grading kids?
kids as they come in.
So what is something that you think you could do, you could start doing today? What about kids going out, lining up, going out to recess?
I don't know.
It's hard.
Yeah, our kids, we just
Yeah.
release them out.
They release, they don't.
Yeah,
Like,
other
they're
times
like,
we make
well,
sure
Yeah,
everybody's
Time
buckled
is the
up.
worst
we-
enemy
yeah, it's hard.
trying to do extra things, because then we're like putting names on
Kids are
tickets or trying to do individual contacts with kids. And usually our individual contacts with kids have a practical value, like, you know, for instance, if they're lining up and anybody who needs help with zipper or gloves or something like that,
As like the
you know,
other
we do that.
person
but,
washing or something.
Yeah, but time time is the enemy of a lot of this because people are waiting like, well, you know, you guys gotta stick with the schedule, you know?
Yeah.
Do you guys come in right before lunch, or are you guys there when school starts? Lunch.
Yeah, a little early.
So where are you stationed when kids come down to the lunchroom?
We're in the lunch,
Yeah.
we're greeting kids as they're
So
walking
Yeah.
you're
into the
greeting
lunchroom.
kids, so you guys
yes.
are doing something positive for all kids. There you go, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're
For
doing
the
it,
first
see?
group of kids at least.
Right.
What's that?
For the first group of kids at least,
And so
because
then
when the first
they're
group
new,
comes
yeah.
in,
Then
we're not engaged in
Right.
labor.
Right, we're
So
already
then
Yeah.
think about it
Don't
today,
wait.
or not today, because you guys have lunch today with
Yeah.
them? Okay, so today, be cognizant and think, okay, first bunch came in, second, they're leaving. What could I do? What could I do to positively engage with a lot of kids when they come in, or when they're coming back in from recess? So think about, where's the time? Time is hard, and my boss will always say, Kelly, it's how we allocate our time. And I'm like, okay, Steve. So think about, where could 1 minute do something where we're doing something positive, or doing thumbs up, high fives, or hey, and it doesn't have to be something long. It's just something quick, and just to know that you care about them. Not that they don't think that you do already, but just something quick every day. Where can I throw that positivity in there? Where can I throw those positive interactions where I'm hitting all kids? Trying to, at least. If we can get all kids every day, that'd be like a miracle, right? So where can we get the majority of our kids? Then we're doing corrective behaviors. So yes, you're going to have to correct behavior because nobody's going to follow the rules 100% of the time. And if you do in your school, I'm going to come work for you. So they might need some corrective on what are the consequences, and are they pre-planned, are they posted? So for instance, what did you call it? It was the nature center. So like the nature center, what was the consequence if they did X, Y, and Z in the nature center? Were those established, were they talked about? Do they know what the consequences are? And then how do you handle those? So do you guys know what the referrals, what are majors, what are minors? Do you guys see the referral, or do you just go down to the office?
As far as like if someone was doing like red tickets, things like that.
So if you had to write somebody, do you guys write people up?
Yeah, we have yellow tickets and red tickets.
So red tickets are like,
Red tickets are for more severe things. Like to see the principal, call
so you guys
parents.
understand, you know the difference between, perfect, so we need to go through that. So, so we don't need to go through that. Do you guys know the same? Do you guys have the same format?
Mhm.
Perfect, high school.
I actually do referrals.
You do referrals. So if she came in as a sub, would she see a referral?
If it came down to, we tried giving them to the principal first, but if they're not there, if they're busy, I'm gonna do the referral and send the kid back to class, unless it's
Okay.
something really bad that they have to sit there that whole time.
Okay. So this is just talking about, do you know what our minor infractions are, and then what are the majors? So, but it seems like you guys had it pretty spelled out for you. So the 2-minute rule, staff who supervise students need to deal with problems quickly so that they can continue to monitor. If a problem cannot be corrected within 2 minutes, then the student is referred to an alternative setting or a staff member to deal with the situation. So if it's something that's quick, easy, you have that conversation, you move on. So you do the corrective, you move on. If it's a problem where, for instance, you're a student that had to go to an alternative setting, then you're gonna have to bring in some help because you can't stop doing what you need to do to make sure the safety of other kids is taking place. So error corrections should be contingent, specific, and brief. My husband, who tries to talk to my 7-year-old that maybe he's done something wrong, it'll go on for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, she's not listening. And she doesn't even know why she's in trouble now. So making it brief and tying it right back to the appropriate behavior that should be demonstrated. By giving them, tell them what they did wrong, tell them how it should be done according to the behavior expectations.
I have a question.
Yes.
One of the most challenging things I see to deal with is when you are getting ready to take the children inside and a student comes and complains to you that another student has done something. And you're very much in a time crunch there
Right.
because you've got to get everybody in. So you don't want them to feel like you're ignoring the problem and
Right.
you don't care about it, but it's often very difficult to understand their exclamations when they're upset.
Right.
So do you have any suggestions on how to deal with that?
So that could be, you would have to probably talk to principal of that building too, and explain that and say, okay, I really want to, meet the child's needs, because you don't want to discredit anything that they say, right?
Right, because if it would have happened like 5 minutes earlier when you didn't have everybody lined up and you didn't have to
Right.
like move, then you could have attended to it easier.
So I would talk to the principal on that and see how they would really want you to handle it, but I would probably just talk to that student and say, if you can help me let them know that they're important, you can help me get everyone lined up and we'll move those in, and then we can take care of the situation.
I try to
That's a
when
good
they
idea.
come in, like when they come in, like, okay, like, let's get in, and when I see them coming in, I said, okay, I pull them aside.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, all the kids are.
So I would just have to say, maybe with it, just one kid, I would have to say with you and say, I just need your help to get everybody in.
Yeah, I like that phrase.
Then let's
I need
just
you to
talk.
help me get the
Yeah.
other kids in.
Yep,
Okay.
so. Major rule violations, it's quick by the book, it's business-like, you gotta it's hard to take our emotion out of it, but we need to take our emotion out of it. Especially high school, they might say some mean, nasty things, and we gotta remember, behavior is a function, communication, and it's not so much us, it's they're hurting. So we need to take our emotion out, which is hard sometimes. All behaviors meet needs, we talked about that. Yours and you guys have behaviors too that have needs, and they're not good or bad. We need to find out why the kid is acting that way, and then it goes back to teaching them. Negative consequences are a way to keep the lid on, and a lot of times they are quick fixes, but doesn't really ever help because we're not teaching. Punishing, when you punish students, we are harming them. And what I mean by punishing is you are taking something away. You are doing something that is harmful and it does not help. Suspensions have a negative effect on student outcomes. So we want to make sure that we are using, that a lot of people will try to take consequence and punishment and intertwine the words, and they're not. They're two separate words. Punishment is harming, consequence gives a time to teach. So we cannot expect punishment to change behavior patterns until therefore our teaching changes behavior. And behavior continues because behavior works unless we start teaching them. Roll this up. And the last piece is just that decision making, collecting the data. So if you do office discipline referrals, or if you even in the lunchroom count how many times you have to do whatever, then it creates a statement saying, okay, this is happening in the lunchroom, this is happening in the playground, we need to change the way that we are walking the playground, or we need to change the way we set up this, etc. So keeping some data on that is really going to be able to tell you what you need to do differently to have better outcomes with your students. And that's just the kind of data that is done within the school. And that's really it. But my contact information is on the back. So if you have any quick questions or anything that you guys have a question on, please feel free to contact me. I will help as much as possible. Talk to your principals, talk to the other colleagues that work with you. Communication is absolute key. And a lot of times principals don't know unless we communicate the information to them. But I did take some notes, and I can send the things that they talked about. And then Jessica requested it, so I'll send it to you and Jessica as well to do that. And I have a quick evaluation for you guys. And then your day can start with all of the lovely kiddos. And on this, we do a retrospective evaluation. So on the top part, the first boxes, it is now at the end of the day I can, and then the second one is when I first walked in. So a 4 is confident and a 1 is I have more questions. So the first box is now that you've gone through the training, I have an idea. And the second box is when I first walked in, I knew this.